This is Sunday Live with Jeff Koinange and Olive Barrows.
And welcome to Sunday Live right here at Citizen Television. Folks, we have a great show for you today. It's the very last Sunday in April.
Is it? Already?
Can you imagine?
It's flown by.
Whoa. But we have great news. Kenya, London Marathon.
Yes.
Sebastian Sawe.
Yeah.
Superstar. And the women's, we got
Jocelyn?
Yeah, she came in second.
Yes. So good performance.
Kenya.
All round.
Flag is flying high.
I heard something about Liverpool.
On top of that, they've won the league. They've won the league. There's 4 games to play for each team, most of the teams, right? But even if, let's say, Arsenal or Man City win all their games, they cannot catch Liverpool.
Oh, okay.
So the league is over.
So Liverpool fans there are celebrating.
They're not walking alone. Start tweeting at Koinange Jeff.
At Barrows at Citizen TV, Kenya.
Hashtag is Sunday Live. Sunday Live begins right now.
Tonight.
Kenya dominates once again. Sebastian Sawe storms to victory in the men's London Marathon, while Ethiopia's Tigist Assefa shatters the women's world record.
Unapata mwanafunzi wa darasa la 6 analipa katikati ya 2,000 to 3,500 per term.
Pushed to the edge. Parents struggle to send their children back to school amid mid-month pressures and rising bills.
Keep off politics. Kenya Kwanza leaders slam retired President Uhuru Kenyatta over his score for a youth revolution.
Swelling cholera cases. Migori County leads as cholera infections rise to 156 across 3 affected counties.
All right, welcome to the broadcast. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Yulanzale. We begin on a winning note. 29-year-old Sebastian Sawe braved a strong field of experienced and fast athletes to win the 2025 edition of the London Marathon that has become a Kenyan affair for the past 4 years.
That's right. On the women's side, Jocelyn Chepkosgei had to battle humidity in the final 10 kilometers and managed to finish second behind Ethiopia's Olympic marathon silver medalist Tigist Assefa. Michael Kinyi in London with the details.
With the man making his marathon debut, the Olympic triathlon champion.
The men's field was an assembly of great marathon champions led by Olympic champion Tamirat Tola of Ethiopia, defending champion Alex Munyao of Kenya, and 2-time Olympic champion and former world record holder Eliud Kipchoge. At the halfway 21-kilometer mark, the elite athletes were still sizing up each other, having done the half marathon in 61 minutes and 30 seconds. In the second part of the marathon, it was quick, Sebastian Sawe stepping on the gas at the 30-kilometer mark. The rest of the field did not respond to the sudden injection of pace, and Sawe ran a solo race to win in London for the first time in 2 hours, 2 minutes and 27 seconds. Defending champion Alex Munyao finished third behind debutant Jacob Kiplimo of Uganda.
I promised myself to run my own race, and that's make me to run the way I ran today.
For me, I was just keeping the position because I knew that Sebastian has already left. I was just keeping my position and keep pushing to the finish.
My target was to finish in the podium, but I have done so. I'm very grateful, and I thank God for that.
Eliud Kipchoge finished 6th in his 6th appearance at the London Marathon. He says there is no shame in finishing outside the podium behind younger and stronger athletes.
I was feeling good, but I'm happy to run with the young generation. Still, my muscles enable me to really compete with the young ones. But I'll soon give them the pattern, do other things in sport.
On the women's side, Tigist Assefa finally won the race after finishing second in 2024. She also finished second at the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. She set a new women's-only marathon record of 2 hours, 15 minutes and 50 seconds. The high humidity affected Jocelyn Chepkosgei, but she managed to hang on for second position ahead of Olympic champion Sifan Hassan of the Netherlands. Chepkosgei credits Tigist Assefa for helping her finish on the podium.
I'm so grateful and for her win. She's so sweet for breaking the women-only record. She did well. We helped each other at some kilometer. We feel like someone was down, and she was calling me, and at some point I was calling, let's go, like that.
Former champion Vivian Cheruiyot, a late inclusion in the race, finished 5th.
I was given this chance at the last minute, and I was prepared. I don't have anything to complain. Position 5, it's okay for me. I think I've done a lot, and I'm proud of myself for what I've done today.
The athletes were happy with the Kenyan fans who came out in large numbers to cheer them to victory. Sawe's win at the 2025 edition of the London Marathon means that Kenyans have now won the men's edition of the marathon for 4 years in a row, 2022, 2023, 2024 and now in 2025. It has sparked off a wild party on the streets of London where Kenyans are out to celebrate this great win. Michael Kinyi for Citizen TV in London, United Kingdom.
Congratulations.
Yeah, did you see Mike representing, there was a Kenyan flag. Of course, our athletes fly the Kenyan flag high, and he was also flying the Citizen brand high as well.
And lots of Kenyans in the UK, yeah?
Yes.
You saw that?
Yes, I did.
Good support. Well done. Well done. Let's move on.
All right, now to matters. Schools and our schools in the country prepare to reopen for the second term tomorrow. Parents have to contend with high textbook prices and mounting bills charged by schools.
That's right. Unlike in previous years, when parents would flock to bookstores and uniform centres, only a few parents and students turned up to travel or buy books and other school supplies, citing the high cost of learning materials. Our very own Willie Lusige brings us more.
Scene played out at bus stations and bookshops on the eve of school reopening in the country. For the first time, a picture unlike the usual crowds of parents and students who normally flood Nairobi. Only a handful of parents showed up to send their children back to school, saying they chose to travel early to avoid the usual Monday congestion.
Leo at least hakuna congestion ya magari na watoto sio wengi. Leo ni siku nzuri ya kutravel.
But this time has presented a new challenge. Parents are complaining that besides the rising cost of books, uniforms and other school supplies, the school reopening date was set on the wrong dates before the end of the month when many parents haven't received their salaries.
Uchumi saizi umepanda, utaona kwamba zile vitu ambazo maybe wakati mmoja maybe ulikuwa unanunua 100, saizi ni 200, na kama uko na watoto watatu ama wanne, unaona kwamba there's a lot, hujaweka school fees na mambo mengine.
Vitabu siko juu, pia laptop, kwa sababu hii CBC watoto wanaambiwa waende na laptop, unapata iko juu. So inabidi kama sisi mzazi tujinyime.
And it's not just parents feeling the pinch. Sellers of school supplies, especially bookshops, have been equally hit.
Saizi unaona hata kuna mtu yote tu hata mmoja. Kutoka morning hatujaona wateja. Sasa mwaka tuseme tu ni ngumu, na hata mali wamefungulia shule pia wazazi hawana pesa. Labda ingekuwa next week hivyo.
Stakeholders in the education sector now say this could be a clear sign of the heavy burden that parents are shouldering across the country. Willie Lusige, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
And at the same time as schools across Kenya reopen for the second term, thousands of children from poor families are staring at a bleak future.
Civil society is warning that despite education being free and compulsory by law, illegal levies by public schools continue to lock out the most vulnerable from school.
That's right. Tonight, Elimu Bora Working Group is calling out the government for breaking its promise of free primary education to thousands of children, even as duty prepares to watch in silence. Let's get more from our very own Mary Mwoki.
370 public schools paint a grim picture. Illegal levies, master's admission, development, desk and exam fees have turned Kenya's promise of free primary and junior secondary education into a cruel mirage for many families. From Kisumu to Mombasa, parents are being forced to pay between 500 and 25,000 shillings before their children can even set foot in a classroom.
Wazazi tumefinywa sana. Na unaenda upate mzazi yako na watoto kama 5 kwa hiyo shule. Inamgharimu analipa over 15,000 na kama hana hizo pesa mtoto anatumwa nyumbani.
Nakuta inapatia mwanafunzi haki ya kusoma bila malipo. Na hapo nakuta shule zinaitisha pesa bila hiyo approval ama barua kutoka kwa CS na pia hawapeani risiti hizo.
From admission fees to charges for desks, books and even toilets, parents are being squeezed for cash they cannot afford. Schools like MM Shah Primary in Kisumu demand up to 20,000 for admission, while St. Mary's in Mombasa charges 10,000 just to walk through the gate. Kibao Primary and Junior Secondary in Machakos is also in the list of offenders. These unlawful fees, often paid without receipts, threatening to lock out many learners.
If the Cabinet Secretary for Education does not act, the parents and students will continue being exploited through these illegal levies.
The Elimu Bora Working Group has asked the government to immediately stop all illegal levies and punish rogue head teachers imposing these levies. The group says delays in releasing capitation have exposed parents to illegal charges.
Underfunding, poor monitoring and lack of enforcement have produced an unjust education system in which families are compelled to pay for what ought to be free.
As schools reopen across Kenya on Monday, the Elimu Bora Working Group is calling for immediate cancellation of all illegal levies, return of all learners to class unconditionally, punishment for rogue head teachers, and proper public funding to end the exploitation. Mary Mwoki, Citizen TV.
Away from matters education, Kenya Kwanza leaders, led by President William Ruto's aide, Faruk Kibet, have slammed retired President Uhuru Kenyatta over his comments about the youth revolution, terming them insightful.
That's right. Now, speaking in Kakamega County during an interdenominational funds drive, the leaders blamed the former president for the current mess in President Ruto's government, current mess, rather, in President Ruto's government. Let's get more from our very own Emmanuel Toe.
The recent rallying call by retired President Uhuru Kenyatta to the Kenyan youth to come out and save the country seems to have rubbed the government the wrong way. Sunday, President Ruto's lieutenants, led by the president's aide Faruk Kibet, who assembled in Malava constituency, Kakamega County, for a funds drive, taking the opportunity to fire back at former President Uhuru Kenyatta, telling him to keep off local politics.
It is under your watch ya kwamba kulikuwa na betting companies zikapewa licenses betting company 200. Wacha ku-criticize wakati wewe mwenyewe ndio umekosa. Wewe mwenyewe uko uongozi ndio umekosa.
Ukiwa retired as an MP, as a president, as an MCA, toa mdomo kwa wale ambao wako.
The leaders calling out Kenyatta for what they termed as doublespeak, saying it was ironical that he was fashioning himself as the defender-in-chief of the youth, while he allegedly denied them opportunities while in office.
Alimteua mzee Mudi Yaori akiwa na miaka 91 kuwa chairman ya Sports Fund. Akisema anapenda vijana, ule ndio unafisi ambaye inafanya Yesu awezi akarudi saa hii mpaka ule mzee ya zamani Uhuru Kenyatta abadilishe mawazo yako.
It is very ironic, it is very absurd, very uncouth and becoming. You've been in an office, sasa unarudi unaanza kukosoa hao watu instead of enjoying retirement.
The leaders also lauding President Ruto's trip to China, slamming those who are poking holes into the goodies he brought.
Ndugu yetu alipotuacha tulipeana ahadi mingi, na mingi ya ahadi hizo rais alisema imekamilika. Akileta bus, tumeenda kule Samizi, tumekuja leo hapa.
William Ruto amalize hii miaka 5, apate ingine 5.
Weta ako hapo, Musali ako hapo. Munaona mambo inaweza pangika.
The sentiments were also echoed by Interior National Administration CS Kipchumba Murkomen, who termed the remarks by the former president as reckless and irresponsible. Murkomen was speaking during the lower eastern leg of the Jukwaa la Usalama.
Suddenly umekuwa very clever na umekuwa malaika haraka. Sasa wewe ndio unatupatia lecture kusema fanyeni maandamano, pigeni serikali. Na jana ulikuwa hapa hata miguu yenye hata ile penye ulikanyaka ukitoka mlango ya State House haijakauka.
The former president, who delivered a keynote address at the second annual Guild Leaders Summit 2025 at Makerere University in Kampala, Uganda, called on the youth to stand up for their country as they were the latter-day freedom fighters. Malava constituency succession politics also took center stage months after former Malava MP Malulu Injendi passed on.
Na mimi nawauliza watu ya Malava kwamba Malava hii nyinyi ndio mtajenga, nyinyi ndio mtachukua mbunge ambaye atakuja kuwatendea kazi, sio kufanya makelele.
Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV.
All right, still on politics, and former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua mounted an anti-Ruto campaign in Nyandarua, telling Kenyans not to accept to be hoodwinked by what he termed as false promises.
Gachagua, who attended a Sunday service in Oljororok constituency in Nyandarua County, said their coalition with other leaders will ensure that President William Ruto becomes a one-term president. Stephen Little has the details.
The former deputy president who was in Nyandarua County took his former boss head-on, this time referring to the Kenya Kwanza administration promises as full of lies. Gachagua said the roads that were promised by President Ruto to the residents of Nyandarua have allegedly not taken off.
Kama kuna watu walidanganywa na huyu Kasongo ni watu ya Nyandarua. Barabara ya kutoka Bauman mpaka Charagita akatudanganya. Ni muongo si muongo.
Gachagua was attending a church service in Oljororok and later a Meet the People tour in Maili Nne, faulted his former boss over changes in the defunct NHIF, claiming that its replacement SHA has not been embraced by Kenyans. His remarks comes a few days after the Ministry of Health announced that more than 21 million Kenyans had enlisted into SHA.
Mambo ya NHIF aliharibu wa kuharibu. SHA inafanya kazi haifanyi. Ni muongo si muongo. Akakuja akatuongeza kodi watu ya payslip. Hata huyu polisi yako hapa hana matibabu. Huyu polisi ni mtu ya kuumia.
Gachagua mounting an anti-Ruto campaign in Nyandarua, adding that his alliance with opposition leaders including former Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i will ensure President Ruto does not go for a second term.
Nimeshikana na Kalonzo Musyoka, Eugene Wamalwa, George Natembeya, Fred Matiang'i, Kasongo aende one way. Tumekubaliana.
Leaders who accompanied Gachagua to Nyandarua to queue, calling on Kenyans to reject President Ruto at the ballot. Stephen Leto, Citizen TV.
Meanwhile, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki has called for better relations and cooperation between the church and the state. Addressing the faithful at Marani Catholic Parish in Kisii County, Kindiki said the government respects the voice of the church on governance in the country.
That's right. Kindiki's calls come in the wake of a barrage of criticism by the religious leaders on the implementation of government programs and a banning of politicians from using the pulpit to advance their political agenda.
We respect the church. Tuko na heshima kubwa kwa kanisa. Na sisi hatuna ugomvi wowote, hatuna tetezi, hatuna mashindano baina ya serikali na kanisa. The government is not in competition with the church. The government is not in competition with any religious faith. The government sees the church as a complementary institution to support the welfare of the people. We see the church as a partner, a valuable partner to what the government is doing. Our objectives are the same. Kwa hivyo kanisa, wale wangetaka tuwasaidie kujenga kanisa kama Father Ignatius, tutawasaidia. Wale hawataki, tutaheshimu pia vile wamesema.
At the same time, tension remains high in Baringo County, days after 2 people were killed by suspected bandits in Loberer along the Marigat-Chemolingot highway.
An incident that saw agitated residents block the Marigat-Nakuru highway to express their disappointment. In a security meeting held today in Kimose, Baringo, area legislators now want security operators to bring an end to the perennial problem of insecurity. Citizen TV's Boniface Baraza has the details.
After months of calm in the volatile Baringo County following deployment of the military, bandits seem to have changed tact and resorted to highway banditry in Baringo. In the latest attack along Marigat-Chemolingot highway, the heavily armed criminals killed 2 people, sparking tension among the residents.
Hatukuja kwa mambo ya development nini. Only security. We need security. Why always Baringo?
Kitu ambacho kitamaliza mambo ya ukosefu wa usalama baada ya serikali kusima ile kubwa, ile inabaki ni raia wenyewe, jamii wenyewe, maana tunajuana.
Speaking in a security meeting that brought together the agitated residents who blocked Marigat-Nakuru highway and county security team in Kimose area in Baringo, the legislatures called for a lasting solution to the banditry menace.
Ni wakora 2-3 ambaye ni bandit, tusiende tukalamsam community mzima na tuweze kukua tunaona community mzima kama ni wakora. Hapana. Ni nyinyi police na askari mtuambie kati ya watu yote nani ndio mkora, nani ndio mtu mzuri.
Criminals must be pursued to their hideouts, to their caves, to their homes, so that banditry becomes an expensive exercise.
With security apparatus being put to task to separate chaff from wheat following the runaway insecurity in the county, security chiefs have assured residents firm action.
Sisi tumeangazia mkora ambaye ni 2, 3, 4 ndio unaona usalama imeweza kuimarika. Na mkora ako kila mahali ambaye wanafanya vitendo ambaye ni vibaya.
The 2 were killed on their way to Nginyang Livestock Market when they were ambushed. Boniface Barasa, Citizen TV, Baringo.
All right, let's go on to matters health. And the Ministry of Health is calling for heightened vigilance following a surge in cholera cases across the country. A total of 153 cases have been reported in the counties of Migori, Kisumu, and Nairobi.
Public Health Principal Secretary Mary Muthoni has urged the public to prioritize hygiene, including boiling water, especially during the ongoing rainy season. Ben Kirui has the details.
Kisumu County is leading in the number of reported cholera cases, with 56 cases confirmed so far, followed by Migori with 53 cases and Nairobi with 44, according to the Ministry of Health. Public Health Principal Secretary Mary Muthoni said all necessary measures are being taken to prevent further spread of the disease within the affected counties and beyond. She noted that surveillance activities have been intensified, with health officials deployed to monitor and respond swiftly to any new cases.
There are 3 counties where we have had an outbreak. We have had Migori County, Kisumu County, and Nairobi County, and we do not want that to spread to the other parts of the country. We have had deaths out of that, and it is sad.
The ministry has reiterated calls for the public to observe strict hygiene practices, including regular hand washing, boiling drinking water, and using proper sanitation facilities such as pit latrines.
Ensure that you have safe drinking water. Our community health promoters have the chlorine tablets, they have the treatment tablets for water. It is important that if you do not have one in your house, get some from the community health promoters.
Last week, 3 cholera cases were confirmed, bringing the total to 125 at the time. Migori, Nairobi, and Kisumu counties have consistently reported the highest numbers. According to PS Muthoni, public health teams are actively engaging communities to raise awareness and promote preventive measures. Ben Kirui, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
All right, on that note, we're going to take our first break here on Sunday Live. Let you know there's plenty more ahead, including our weekly feature, Citizen Planet.
Yes, and it's all about a new kind of hair braid. That's what I have to try.
Are you wearing braids?
Right now? No.
That's your hair?
Yes. I'm sorry, Monica is in my ear. Just say.
Oh, okay. Nyako. Keep tweeting at Queen and Jeff.
At Barros at Citizen TV Kenya.
The hashtag is Sunday Live. Sunday Live takes a break. We'll be back. It is exactly 30 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to Sunday Live here at Citizen Television. On to matters overseas, and Catholics around the world mocked the second day of mourning for Pope Francis, a day after his interment.
The Catholic faithful will mourn the Pope for 9 days, this being the 7th day before the process of choosing his successor begins.
That's right. In the meantime, the tomb of the late Pope Francis has been revealed as faithful and pilgrims begin to pay homage to the late pontiff. We get more from our very own Brenda Wanga.
A single rose marks the spot where the late pontiff was laid to rest on Saturday at the Santa Maria Maggiore Basilica. Inscribed on it, a single word, the name he took upon his ascension to the papacy: simple, humble, in eternity as he was in life. Above his tomb hangs a reproduction of the iron-plated cross Francis wore throughout his papacy, reflecting his desire for humility even in death. Back at the Vatican and across the world, thousands of people gathered for masses in honor of the late Pope Francis on the second day of the Novem Diales, or the days of mourning.
The Eucharistic prayer, we are supposed to mention and pray for the Pope as the head of the church. But now the seat is empty. So we go, instead of mentioning the name of the Pope, each diocese is supposed to mention the name of its ordinary, or the local ordinary. That is the local bishop. For example, here in Nairobi, we are mentioning the name of our local bishop, who is the Most Reverend Philip Anyoro. So the church now is going to be guided by the cardinals. The cardinals have a dean. The dean is the one who led the liturgy yesterday for the burial of the Pope. But also the most important figure there is also the Camerengo, who ran the business of the Vatican in the absence of the Pope.
According to the steep Catholic tradition, faithful will mourn the Pope for 9 days since his burial. At the close of the 9 days of mourning, which commenced on Saturday, the next step in the process of getting his successor will begin. It is expected that within 15 to 20 days of the passing of the Pope, cardinals eligible to vote will gather for the conclave, a secretive meeting that votes to elect his successor.
And therefore, they are going to start with their formal meetings. After that formal meeting, the cardinals are going to have time for prayer, a kind of retreat, and then they go in for a conclave.
The process of the election is shrouded in secrecy and remains virtually unchanged in 800 years. Under the current rules, only cardinals below the age of 80 are allowed to cast a vote. This time round, 135 cardinals of the voting age will gather inside the exquisitely decorated Sistine Chapel, home of all the papal conclaves since 1858, where they will whittle down the candidates through successive rounds of voting. The cardinals, sworn to an oath of secrecy, will be locked inside the conclave until they can choose a successor. The names of 9 cardinals are chosen at random to officiate and organize the vote. 3 become scrutineers, whose job it is to oversee the vote, 3 more collect the votes, and 3 more revise them. During each ballot, cardinals write the names of their choice, ideally in distorted handwriting to disguise their identity. The ballot papers are then burned in a small fire inside the Sistine Chapel. The black smoke, which is produced by the fire, tells the crowds waiting outside that a new pope has yet to be chosen. A pope is only elected when a single candidate receives a 2/3 majority and white smoke is seen billowing from the Sistine Chapel. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV.
So actually, today is the 8th day of the Novem Dialis. Then there's 7 more days to go because so it starts with the mass, the funeral mass, and then now there's a mass today. I think the mass of Divine Mercy, and then now for the next 7 days.
Are you Catholic?
No, but you didn't hear this in Brenda's report.
Seem to be an expert right here.
Yo, everybody keeps asking me if I've seen this movie called The Conclave.
Yeah, you must. If you haven't, you must. It's exactly what's going to happen in the next few days when they are locked up in that room to pick the next pope.
Interesting. Wait to see what the outcome will be.
Absolutely.
Now, after years of despair that saw farmers uprooting coffee plantations and replacing them with other crops, the wind of coffee boom is blowing across the country yet again.
That's right. Now, hardworking, determined, and economically empowered farmers who have always been producing some of the world's best coffee are now reaping record profits.
With prices soaring up to 145 shillings per kilo of cherry, they're proudly calling it plucking green gold.
I love it. Tonight, we take you to the farms where the sweet aroma of the coffee sector reforms is stronger than ever. Take a listen.
It is very hard to identify the gold hidden within this lush, endless greenery, synonymous with the fertile, hilly terrain of Kirinyaga and Nyeri counties. But coffee farmers like Joseph Mudhike Gishoya are experts. They can detect it. They can see it.
Ndio kahawa tunachuna na kahawa yetu ni poa. Kahawa sasa tumebadilika sasa, kahawa imekuwa gold. Hii matunda yote tunafurahia. Kahawa ni gold. Serikali imetusaidia.
They can feel it.
We are hoping that by the time we are done with the 5 years, hata karibu tutakuwa tumenunua sasa. Kila mtu atakuwa na prando.
They can smell the coffee.
Before I was not interested in the farming, but after consulting several farmers who do the coffee businesses, they advised me that the coffee is the only produce that can give me an amount of money.
With experienced hands, they pluck prosperity straight from the branches, a skill perfected over generations, now finally paying off thanks to sweeping coffee reforms.
Tumefaidika kidogo na serikali labda ile iko. Na tulilipwa na 150 per kilo. Ile ingine kama boni tulipwa na 141. Kwa hivyo at least tuliona matunda.
These are the best prices ever received. Baragwe Farmers Cooperative Society has over 29,000 registered coffee farmers.
We have been paid the highest, that is 145 shillings. And I think yesterday I saw a factory which has been paid 149 shillings per kilogram. But we are hoping in due course, if the trend continues, we expect to be paid more than 200 shillings per kilogram.
All these are uprooted stems. Banana stems.
Across Kenya, a new coffee boom is indeed brewing fast. Fields once dominated by bananas, veteran farmers are making bold moves to create more room for their green gold.
So this is a place where I used to now formerly plant bananas. You can see them. It was a banana field. We had about 100 stems of bananas, but I've realized that I cannot compare now the income from bananas to that one of now coffee farming.
One cherry, one harvest, one success story at a time. The farmers say their eyes are fixed on the prize. Literally, they are Kenya's new coffee millionaires. Proud farmers, hardworking. They say they are finally reaping their reward.
Now coffee farming has kept a record, and we are hopeful that next time we are even focusing on 150 to 200, and the lifestyle will change for all of us.
Some call the change better prices, others see it as the start of bigger dreams and a taste of prosperity at last. Some still describe it simply as the ripple effect of coffee sector reforms. But the coffee millionaires of Nyeri and Kirinyaga simply call it green gold. Willie Lusige, Citizen TV.
Our Central Organization of Trade Unions, COTU, Secretary General Francis Atwoli now says the government should come up with a special unit to control the social media space to regulate the use of the platform, which he maintains is being used to incite the country's spreading during Kotu's Thanksgiving Church.
Yeah, he spoke during the Thanksgiving church service here in Nairobi, and he called on employers to respect presidential advisories that have given employees salary increments. Emmanuel too has the details.
In his address during the Thanksgiving service at the St. Stephen's ACK Jogoo Road Church in Nairobi Sunday, Kotu boss Francis Atwoli, who has been at the helm of the union for the past 24 years, says it is time the government cracks the whip on social media. Atwoli saying the platform nearly banned the country at the height of the Gen Z protests last year.
Incitements on social media. And I'm saying this, if government and we people who are in public life cannot loudly speak, you will see it.
Atwoli, who drew parallels between the new era of social media and the old media, advocating for a special government unit to deal with abuse of social media.
Some of the things we should be regretting, kwa nini hatuna special branch? Yetu ilikuwa wakati wa Moi, wakati wa Kenyatta, ya kumonitor everything. It was good for the country.
The Gen Zs utilize social media as a key platform to organize and execute their push against the Finance Bill 2024 that saw President William Ruto bow to pressure, dropping the law which was termed by many as punitive.
Content via social media to the young people, to the youth, to the population is not conducive and cohesive to a nation that is to aspire to higher heights economically, socially, and politically.
Atwoli, who recently hinted at his looming exit from the giant trade union, calling on employers to respect presidential directives which have not been implemented on bettering the employment spaces of Kenyan workers.
Last year, wakati president ametupatia 6%, naweza kuona behavior ya waajiri wa Kenya. Presidential directives is not debatable.
Wewe unaona tu kwa social media mtu anakuambia kuna kazi fulani zinapatikana mahali fulani, ni briefcase agency, you have not confirmed whether they are registered under the National Employment Authority. Due diligence is a must.
Emmanuel Toa, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
It is exactly 47 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to Sunday Live here at Citizen Television. On to our weekly feature, Citizen Planet. Now, to a revolutionary beauty trend taking root right here in Kenya. A style that's not just turning heads, but also making a difference in the fight against environment and waste.
In Nyamira County, banana braids are making waves. This homegrown innovation is doing more than redefining beauty. It's creating jobs, reducing agricultural waste, and promoting eco-conscious living. Citizen TV's Duncan Bundi and Crispin Otieno bring us this week's inspiring edition of Citizen Planet.
At Gitare Center in Kitutu, Masaba, Nyamira County, it's a typical day at the salon for Janet Marita and her hairdresser, Emily Kerubo. As Emily's hands weave through Jane's hair, there is something different about the braids. They blend seamlessly with Jane's natural hair. But these ain't your regular synthetic braids. These are banana braids, made from the fibers of banana plants, 100% natural and fully biodegradable.
Hizi braids ambazo ni za banana. Mara ya kwanza nilipozitumia kubadilisha na zile zingine, nilipata kwamba sijikuni. Hiyo ni kumaanisha kwamba tulisikizana. Alafu huwa azibaki. Mara tu unaweza kaa, kwa mfano nikishuka, naweza kaa wakati nimeshukwa, naweza kaa nazo for a long time.
Ninatumia hizi braids za banana ya mgombo. Braids mzuri sana. Ndio natumia sana, hata makastoma wakikuja wakiuliza kama sina, wengine wananiambia wanangojea.
These two women are part of a growing movement choosing sustainability over synthetic beauty, and by doing so, they are harnessing the power of a local crop, turning waste into wealth and leaving nothing behind but goodness. The journey of these banana breeds start at the Weferson Banana Cooperative Society just around the corner. Here, women and youth are transforming banana waste into eco-friendly gold.
We discovered that 80% of the banana, it is go to waste. That is why we decided to come and started the research on how are we going to manage this 80% of the waste that we are having from bananas. It is when we came up with the banana fiber extraction. After doing the extractions, we started now doing more research on what are we going to make from this fiber. Then it is when we came up with banana braids.
You do this way so that it...
At the Fiber Extraction Center, young people harvest raw fiber from banana stems, a part of the plant that often left to rot. Once harvested, women and men take over.
At the moment, mgomba wa ndizi umenisaidia sana. Mimi kama Gen Z, ama mimi kama kijana, umenisaidia sana. Cause ile siku nikiingia site lazima nitoe fiber. Fiber yenyewe ni pesa, lazima nitoe 2 kg. Per kg ni 400, 2 kg hiyo ni 800.
Yeah.
They wash, sort, and prepare the fiber, giving it strength, shine, and eventually color. The process takes nearly 5 days longer and pricier than synthetic options, but for the environment, it's worth every minute.
It's not like using machines. So kiwango ambacho tunatengeneza inategemea with the human labor tuko na wao wafanye kutoka hapa mpaka wafike hapo. Manually, it is a bit expensive and time consuming.
You put it to dry for overnight so that this oil can penetrate and put the shine to be more beautiful and more flexible. So after this one, now it is ready after overnight to go, and then we dye.
Unlike synthetic braids, which take centuries to decompose, banana braids return to the soil, enriching it as organic manure.
Ni braids ambazo ukiwa nazo haziwezi kukusumbua kabisa kwamba utadispose wapi, mara utachoma saa ngapi. It is ni mzuri sana kwa environment, na ukirusha kwa shamba inabaki kuwa manure.
We have grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Those are not the waste, but it is a resource whereby we make mats. Some we make mats. We make baskets, that is kiondos. We make earrings. We make necklaces.
Beyond beauty, this innovation is transforming lives. For the women and youth of Getare, banana braids offer more than just income. They are a path to dignity, independence, and climate resilience. With climate change threatening traditional farming and livelihoods, the Banana Braid Project is offering a fresh, green solution rooted in local knowledge, powered by community, and braided with hope. It's not just a new hairstyle. It's a new story of sustainability, innovation, and Kenyan pride. Crispino, TNO Citizen TV.
Nice feature there, huh?
Yeah, you know, there was a study that suggested the synthetic hair we used to braid could contain carcinogenic material.
Correct.
So, you know, that looks like a good natural option. Something to consider.
Au natural.
Yeah.
Carry
So the
on.
people out there who are saying just shave or just afro, rock the afro.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Faith Omolo was a death row convict in a Malaysian security maximum prison until her acquittal in 2024.
And as our very own Seth Olare reports, Faith miraculously escaped death after being found guilty of being in possession of 2 kilograms of methamphetamine, also known as meth, at the busy Kuala Lumpur International Airport, moments after arriving from Nigeria.
She narrates how many more Kenyans are detained on similar grounds and are rotting in Malaysian prisons.
41-year-old Faith Omolo, a convicted drug trafficker on death row in Malaysia, reunites with the family after narrowly cheating death. The mother of 4, who was waiting to be hung for 8 years after being found guilty of being in possession of 2 kilograms of methane in 2016 in Malaysia, narrates how her ordeal started.
She told me that her sister-in-law have some wholesale shops where they wanted 3 Kenyans to go to work in those wholesale shops. I was interested with the work because she told me that we were going to be paid 3,000 ringgits. When I was comparing that 3,000 ringgits,
which is how much
in Kenya is around 120,000.
In 2016, Faith boarded a flight to Lagos, Nigeria, where she was received and hosted by what she describes as a highly spiritual couple.
I couldn't even think anything bad with them. I just say yes. So when we reach in the airport, the husband is the one who went and opened the boot of the car. That boot of the car, it was one maroon suitcase. But me suitcase which I come with it from Kenya, it was black color.
Faith's first stop was at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where her transit was transferred to her final destination, Kuala Lumpur International Airport, Malaysia.
Someone shouts calling, "Africa! Africa!" Then I look at my back. When I look at my back, it did for me like this. "Come here. Why are you going in that line and we have not yet checked your bag?"
Faith was immediately arrested and detained at Kuala Lumpur police station for 14 days before being arraigned.
When I went to my final decision, judge's verdict was death sentence. My judge in High Court said that he doesn't believe me because Africans are spoiling their country.
As Faith waited to face her executioner, her family, in coordination with Kenyan Embassy in Kuala Lumpur, filed an appeal which was determined by a 3-judge bench. Then a miracle happened during the final determination of Faith's appeal proceedings.
Then he looked at me again. He said, "Faith, you are supposed to be sentenced 12 years. But these 12 years, we have some holidays and everything, and they will start to cut from the beginning when you are arrested. You are going back to your country, you are innocent." So it's like I was dreaming.
But Faith was not the only Kenyan rotting away in a Malaysian security maximum prison.
What's paying me? I have even a mother. I was calling her my mother. Came in prison the year 2017 from Kenya. Old woman.
Having cheated death, Faith has embarked on a healing and recovery journey with family and friends who have been absent from her for 8 years. Seth Olale, Citizen TV.